And now speaker number 5, Dan Schroff, success. Success, Daniel Schroff.
Thank you. How do we define success? And who is successful? I was asked this one night at a Toastmasters meeting when somebody asked, who is the most successful person you've ever met? And I had to think for a minute. I knew the answer, but I had to think for a minute, how do I evaluate success? Is success being rich, like the Bezos, the Trumps, Elon Musk? I don't think you can measure success on money because the playing field isn't level. Is success being famous? Movie star, rock star? Again, we're in an area where the playing field isn't level. So where does the playing field level out? It levels out at the beginning of the Declaration of Independence, when it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's about as level of a playing field as you can possibly get, which brought me to the person who I think is the most successful man I've ever known. That would be my father. My dad grabbed all of those, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and he never let go of them. For life, my dad lived. Most people say you only live once, which is false. You die once, you live every day. And my dad lived every day. Every morning he woke up and he faced the world as though it was his first day on earth. He was happy, eager to get going to work. He wanted to see what was in store for him that day. And at the end of the day, he came home and prayed before going to bed that it was his last day on earth. And if his God should take him that night, he's satisfied and he has no regrets. As far as liberty, my dad was born in 1919, way back. And about 1937, he joined the military, mostly because his family's farm in Anaheim, they needed money. Times were still tough back then, and he joined. And he thought, mistakenly, that his term would be up on December 31st, 1941. However, on some little island out in the middle of the Pacific, that all changed in a heartbeat. So my dad knew that he was now in for the duration, and he married this adorable little girl who looked like a grown-up Shirley Temple. That was my mom, Ruth. And he married her in the early 1942 before they shipped him out to China, Burma, India Theater, where he spent another 4 years as a quartermaster in the U.S. Army, finally getting out in not 1945, but in 1946 when they finally shipped him home. And he was a tech sergeant, 5 stripes. And when he got home, he knew, and this is going into the pursuit of happiness, by the way, but he did join the military because he knew that liberty isn't cheap. He knew that liberty has a cost and he was willing to pay that cost. But when he got out and he was first offered jobs, a lot of places wanted to hire my dad. I mean, my dad was in the military for almost 9 years as a quartermaster. He could literally take an engine apart blindfolded and put it back together. Might be missing a couple screws here and there, as we found out when my dad and I took our Corvair engine apart and put it back together. And I asked him, what are those? And he was like, oh, that's the crankshaft. But aside from that, he could, he was a little out of practice by then. But all these companies wanted him to come work for them. And at each company, when he went there, in his pursuit of happiness, the first thing he asked was, will I be able to bring my kids with me to work? And all but one said no. And the one that said yes was Home Oil Company in Anaheim, California. And that's where my dad went to work. Because my dad drove gasoline and diesel trucks out to all the farmers in Orange County. And back in the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, there were still a lot of farms out there. And my dad wanted a job where he could take his sons and daughter with him to work, because in his pursuit of happiness, he remembered growing up on the farms. He remembered a lot of things that he wanted us to experience, such as going out to a strawberry farm first thing in the morning when the strawberries are still covered in the morning dew, picking them and eating them right out there in the field. He also, during the late summer, we would go out to cornfields. My dad would walk out to a corn stalk and break off a couple ears. He showed me how to husk a corn in no time flat, and we would eat the corn right there in the field, only warmed by the sun. And this corn did not need any kind of butter or salt or anything. If you've never tried corn on the cob without cooking it, give it a shot. It's worth it. To this day, I don't eat cooked corn. But my dad wanted us to go out there into the fields with him with that same first day of life, curiosity. What are we doing? And he did that for 40 some years at that company. Me and all three of my siblings all got to go out with him on that truck. We all remember those as some of the best times of our life. We also all knew that when we were on the truck, every now and then we would think Dad was talking to us, but he was actually sitting over there in the driver's seat and he was praying and he was having a day-long conversation with God. He never stopped. It was a morning, noon, and night thing. And that's probably what kept most of us sane, was the calmness that he had in every situation, because he knew who was in charge. So if you have a chance, try living each day like a child, going out for your first time ever into your city. Look for something you've never seen before. Take a picture of it. See if you can take 365 pictures of something that you've never seen in your city. Live each day like it's new. And when you do that, you can also end each day knowing that if it's your last, you have no regrets, Mr. Toastmaster.